In this unit, we are going to start talking about percentages. So the first thing I want to talk about is what percent means. And so we have this root word cent, okay, which means 100. So percentages are always dealing with 100. There's 100 cents in a dollar. It's only the one I can think of at this moment. So the nice thing about percentages is that they build on proportions really, really well because they are just a proportion. So a percentage is a part to a whole ratio, or it's a proportion where the whole is always 100. So we're comparing different amounts of things by putting them into percentages. It lets us compare that a little bit easier. Okay. So on this one, these are a 10 by 10 grid, so there's going to be 100 squares in each of these. Okay, so how many out of 100? Percent means out of 100. Okay, let's just say out. Let's add that to the top. Percent means out of 100. Okay. So how many out of 100 are filled in? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's another row of 10, so that would be 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, and then we add our percent sign. So that tells us 25 out of those 100 are colored in. Okay. The percent over the whole. There was 25 squares colored in out of 100 total squares. Can I divide both 25 and 100 by? You can actually divide them both by 25. I could have started with 5. You would have gotten to the same thing eventually. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 1/4, 1 out of every 4 squares in there is colored in. To change a fraction to a decimal, we divide. So I'm going to do 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. All right, this one helps us out a little bit. It tells us that it's 85%. So 85 out of these 100 squares are colored in. So the fraction is going to be 85 out of 100. If it ends in 5 or 0, you can divide it by 5. $85 divided by 5 is 17. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And then 17 is a prime number, so the fraction that's colored in is 17 out of 20. Then to change it to a decimal, we can do 17 divided by 20 is 0.85. All right, go ahead and pause. I want you to try this last one on your own. Okay, we can also find percentages of numbers. I don't want to always color in like 100 squares, right? That would be annoying. So we can kind of use this tape diagram, or we're going to call it a percent bar or a percent proportion. We're going to focus on the model of using this percentage bar here today. Okay. So this fraction is telling me to find 1/5. So they took this tape diagram, this rectangle, they broke it up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Okay. So if I count by fifths, So what 1/5 means is that we took 5. So if I had 5 holes and I broke it into 5 pieces, how much is each piece? Okay. So the whole thing is 5, and 100% is also all of it. So if I divide that into 5 pieces, that means that each piece gets 1. So this would be 1, go another one, this one would be 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I can take my percentage and divide it into that many chunks. So we're going to do 100 divided by 5, means that each square is worth 20% of the total. So this would be 20%, 20 more percent is 40, 60, then 80%. So then I'm going to color in 1/5. Okay. So my 1/5 fraction is the same as 20 out of 100. So 1/5 is the same as 20%. Just starting to visualize what does a percentage mean. It's a smaller portion of the whole thing. All right, for 3/4. So that means I took 4 and I split it into 4s. So if this whole thing on the end, the total would be 4. And I'm counting by 1s. So then if I colored in the whole bar, that would be 100% of the rectangle. So I'm going to take 100%, divide it into 4 parts. That's 25% per part. So here's 25% plus 25 would be 50%, plus another 25 is 75%. So I'm taking each number and dividing it by the denominator. We want to find 3/4. So here's one of the 4 pieces, 2/4, 3/4. Okay. So 3 out of 4 pieces was the same as 75% out of 100%. So 3/4 and 75% are the same. They're just different numerical representations of the same amount. So we can set up a percent bar and then find amounts. Okay. So what is 50% of 50? Well, if the whole thing is worth 50, which is also 100% of it, okay, they broke it into 2 pieces. So 100 divided by 2 is 50%. Okay. So let's just make a note on the side of what we did. We took 100%, divided by 2 was 50% per piece of the rectangle. So then I need to apply that same thing to 50. If I take 50 and I divide it by 2, that gives me 25 per piece. So 50% of 50 is 25. All right, so we color it into 50%. That's 25. Okay. What is 25% of 50? So I like to start with my 100%. They broke the bar into 4 pieces for us. So 100 divided by 4 is 25% per piece. So here we have 0%, 25%. I'm just counting by 25s. 75%, 100% would be the whole thing. So then I'm going to take 50, the number part, and also break that into 4 pieces. It's going to be 12.5 per piece. Okay. So here we have 0, right? I haven't colored anything in. Then my first piece is 12.5. Add another 12.5 gives me 25 here. Add another 12.5 is 37.5. And the whole thing would be 50. I need to stop writing in pen. Okay. So 25%. Color it in. 25% of 50. So this whole thing is worth 50. I find 25%. That's 12.5. All right, so you don't have to divide and draw in every single one every single time. You can kind of just use it to find a smaller part. So what is 10% of 50? Well, they both start at 0, okay? All of the percentage bar would be worth 50. Let's say $50, okay? All of the percentage bar is also 100%, okay? So I like to think about it as 100 divided by what number is going to give me 10% per piece, right? Because I'm trying to find 10%. Well, 100 divided by 10 is 10. So each of these bars would go by 10%. Then I apply that same thing to this number. So I'm going to take 50 and divide it by 10 is 5. So each piece gives you 5. So 10% of 50 is 5. All right, let's do this with some other numbers. It can kind of, when you're dealing with 50 all the time, it gets kind of confusing. All right, so what is 20% of 80? Well, these are going to be broken into tenths pieces, so they both start at 0. All of the bar, if I colored it in, would be $80. I like to think of it in terms of dollars. All of it would also be 100%. So 100 divided by 10 is going to give me 10% pieces. So here's 10%. This one would be 20%. I have to apply that same thing to 80. So I'm going to take 80 divided by 10 is 8. So this first one would be 8. This second one would be worth 16. So here's 10%. Here's 20%. I ended at 16. So 20% of 80 is 16. All right, pause. Well, all right, what is 75% of 200? Label them. They both start at 0. Okay. If I colored in the whole rectangle, it would be worth 200 or 100%. So that I want you to break it down and see if you can label the pieces. So this bar is broken into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So 100 divided by 4 is 25. Okay, so that's going to be 25% per line. So it goes 0%, 25%, 50, and then 75%. So I'm going to be coloring up to 75%. Then I have to apply that same thing to the 200. So I'm going to take 200, divide it by 4, is 50. So the first piece is 50, add another 50 to get 100, add another 50 to get 150. So 75% of 200 is 150.